Canelo's next opponent after Terence Crawford will be Chris Eubank Jr. And to be honest, I have a problem with this announcement, so please bear with me. However, before we talk about that, let's first discuss what we know. So, in a recently published report, it's just been revealed that Chris Eubank Jr. is pretty much next in line for Canelo after Terence Crawford, provided that both Canelo Alvarez and Chris Eubank themselves win against their respective opponents this coming September. As we all know, Canelo is set to face Terence Crawford on September 13th, and now it's just been confirmed by Eubank's promoter that a rematch with Conor Benn will happen and is being worked on for a September 27th date. Now, originally, Turki initially declared Canelo as the actual prize for the Eubank versus Benn winner. But since the fight between Eubank and Benn were too close, a rematch was decided to take place first. Not to mention, Canelo is still set to face Terence Crawford anyway, so with that being said, Eubank is looking into closing the rivalry with Conor Benn as soon as possible, rather than sit around and wait for next year. When asked if Canelo versus Eubank is realistic, Eubank's promoter responded with, quote, 100%. He also confirmed that negotiations between the two camps at this very moment states that both men must first overcome their respective opponents in order to meet each other next. Now, quite frankly, I do have a problem with this. Not with the Canelo versus Eubank fight per se, but with this ongoing trend of fights being lined up and announced before fighters clear what's in front of them, with Garcia versus Haney as a prime example. Definitely feel free to disagree, but I think it's kinda disrespectful that some fighters are being used as basically placeholders, with Rolly Romero, Jose Ramirez, and William Skull all being treated this way. The whole promotion leading to Garcia versus Romero revolved around Garcia versus Haney. Meanwhile, Canelo versus Crawford was signed, promoted, and got all the buzz even before Canelo versus Skull took place. At that time, some people who religiously didn't follow the news were even confused as to why Canelo and Skull were doing a press event, and thought that Canelo versus Crawford got cancelled despite the fact that the fight itself hasn't even been officially announced yet. Well, fast forward, and now Conor Benn and Terence Crawford, who both are great fighters, are pretty much being treated the same way. Anyway, Canelo Alvarez himself has been against this kind of approach, with him not mentioning Terence Crawford leading up to his fight with William Skull, despite the fact that we now know that Canelo versus Crawford got signed even before Canelo versus Skull took place. At that time, Canelo said that he doesn't want to talk about other fights except for the one that's in front of him, as he doesn't want William Skull or his team to feel disrespected or overlooked at. So with that being said, you can expect the same way for Canelo versus Chris Eubank, with the Mexican fighter only mentioning Terence Crawford's name up until this fight actually concludes. Also, we're not even sure yet if Canelo and Eubank will both win this coming September against Crawford and Conor Benn. But yeah, folks, that's the latest so far. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, please don't forget to click that like and subscribe button for more quick talks.